In my more than 20 years of experience teaching, I found that there is a very common philosophical thesis that students affirm, they believe. Of course, it is subtle, and they often are not even aware that they believe it, but I am labeling this belief scientism. Scientism is an extreme version of empiricism, and it claims that the only empirical verification can get at the truth of a matter. In one way, I don't blame students for thinking this when it comes to religion and philosophy, because there's no common authoritative answer to the important questions that are investigated. But the thesis of scientism is something like this: any claim that is true can be proven to be true through our senses, gathered data, or science. That's what we mean by empiricism. And conversely would be the case for false claims. That is, any claim that is false could be proven to be false through our senses or gathered data or science. And that's the only way that you know something is true or false. So if something cannot be empirically verified, then it's merely an opinion, and there's no truth to the matter. That's scientism, and is unfortunately extremely common belief. So there are two fatal flaws, however, with scientism. Let's take them one at a time. So first, there is a direct reason to reject scientism, and that is it is self-refuting. Consider the thesis itself. So the thesis is that any claim that is true can be proven to be true through our senses, gathered data, or science. Now, let's question that. Can it be empirically verified? Can that thesis be proven to be true through our senses? No, we don't see it, hear it, taste it, or touch it. Is there data that affirms that it's true? No. Is there an area of science that affirms it is true? No, there's no area of science that would investigate this kind of claim. In fact, the claim itself is a philosophical claim. So the first flaw is that the claim of scientism is self-refuting. Since it cannot be empirically verified, the main claim of scientism on its own standard is not a fact. It's not true. According to its own standard, there is no truth to the matter. And of course, if there's no truth to the matter, then scientism is not true. So that is a significant problem for scientism, a very good reason to reject it. There is a second flaw of scientism, and we'll use some examples to think through this second flaw. First of all, let's consider each of these statements, all of them which are true, and I assume for most of them you'll see that they are obviously true, or at least they are well known. All squares have four sides, all bachelors are unmarried. A little more subtle truth, but no sentence can be true and false at the same time when the terms have the same meaning. This is a foundational principle of reasoning, very important truth. Here's another one. If Socrates is a human and all humans are mortal, then Socrates is mortal. So we have these truths, and then I'll add one more mathematical claim here. Every even number is the sum of two prime numbers. I'll let you pause and think about that one if you want. There are truths then that cannot be empirically verified. All of those truths that we just went through on the previous slide, they're true, but we do not investigate samples of squares, for example, to see whether they have four sides. We don't go out and do surveys of bachelors to discover whether or not they are unmarried. That's not how we do it. We don't empirically verify these claims. We cannot construct an experiment, see with our eyes that no sentence can be true or false at the same time. We just can't do such things. There's no empirical proof that the statement regarding Socrates is true, and not even mathematicians can prove the claim about even numbers. Yet those claims are true. So we have examples now of things that are true, but cannot be empirically verified. So that's problematic. We also have things kind of on the flip side of that. Consider claims that are identified as opinions according to scientism. So this is common among students. They say these kinds of claims are merely opinions, right? So there's intelligent life. Life as intelligent as humans are on another planet. Well, if scientism is correct, we can't currently empirically verify whether this is true or not, so it must be just an opinion. It's possible for androids to have genuine emotions. There are disagreements about that, so it must just be an opinion. Science can't resolve it. God exists. Right? There's no empirical verification of that is clear-cut. There are certainly arguments on both sides of the issue, but according to scientism, it can't be true. It's merely an opinion. Here's one that hopefully most people believe is false. David Koresh was the Messiah and gave his followers eternal life. He was the leader of the branch Davidians. You can look that up if you're not familiar with it, but he did in fact make that claim. And scientism, according to scientism, that's not a false claim. Enslaving an ethnic group is morally wrong. If you endorse scientism, every moral claim is merely an opinion, so there's no truth of the matter, so it's not true that enslaving an ethnic group is morally wrong. The problem, of course, is that the claims on that previous slide are either true or false, yet none of them can be currently, at least, empirically verified, right? One of them, the one about intelligent life on another planet, we are trying to empirically verify it. In theory, it is verifiable empirically, but currently we're unable to do that. So according to scientism, there's no truth value to any of those claims. They are all merely opinions. The problem with this is that each of those claims is either true or false. Let me go ahead and state what I believe about a couple of those. I do believe that God exists. I do not believe that David Koresh was the Messiah. I believe that is false. It is true that enslaving an ethnic group is morally wrong. Those claims are either true or false. Now, okay, it's possible that I might be wrong about some of those. There are intelligent people that disagree with me on a couple of those claims, but they are either true or false. It doesn't matter what we believe. Whether something is true is one thing. Whether it's believed is something else entirely different. So the ones that are true. It doesn't matter what opinions people may have about them or whether individuals believe them or not. They are true or false, regardless of those things. The ones that are false regardless whether anyone or even everyone believes them. So an example of something that was false, but at a certain time nearly everyone believed, was that the Earth is the center of the universe and the sun and the stars revolve around the Earth. Everyone believed that at a certain point in time, but it was false. It didn't matter that everyone believed it. It was still false, even though it wasn't empirically verifiable for people in the medieval era and previous to that. It was still false. So, conclusion. Scientism is the idea that anything that is true can be empirically verified. It is an assumption that many, many people have, but they haven't carefully thought it through. Scientism is false. First of all, scientism is self-refuting on its own merits. It's not true. Right? It's merely an opinion at best on its own merits, which makes it questionable on its own. And then the second flaw that we saw is scientism ignores significant truths that can't be empirically verified, and it calls these truths opinions when they are either true or false. So scientism should clearly be rejected.